Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In this video, a crazy entitled Karen waltzed into my video game store and demanded a free PlayStation 5. She vandalized my business when I refused her demands and I honestly have no idea what to do. Here is what happened. For the past few years, I've owned a video game store. It's been going great. We offer exchanges for old games and consoles, which has built us an amazing customer base. Sales have been soaring, with more people choosing to stop in person now for their games and devices. So in other words, it's been going great. And it was until a few months ago when a woman came in and began causing a commotion. And by the way, Ripe Stars, just to quickly interject, what was your favorite console of all time and which one are you currently using? I gotta say, at the moment I'm still playing my PS5, but I am thinking of getting a modded PlayStation 3 because for some reason I've never owned a PlayStation 3 despite owning all other consoles. Don't ask me why. Anyway, "No son, just get in through the door," I heard being yelled from outside, the body of the voice hidden by the wall. "Mom, stop, this is embarrassing," a boy yelled, just as he was shoved in through the door with an enraged woman tailing him. She straightened herself and then pinned her eyes over to me, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't cause some terror to flood through me. Her stare was more than slightly electrifying, almost felt like offering her a job in security. "You!" she yelled and pointed her finger at me, stomping over. I raised my hands. "Sorry, have we met before?" The woman rolled her eyes and said, "No, we have not met before. Don't be ridiculous." "Okay," I replied while narrowing my eyes. She again rolled her eyes, stopping at the counter and bracing her hands upon it. "I need a PS5. "Okay, we do have some PS5s available at the moment. I'll go and get one out from the back," I stated, eyeing my colleague to come and watch the desk. "And hurry." "We don't have all day," she called after me, so I brought back the PlayStation 5 and placed it on the counter briefly. "Thanks," she snapped and went to grab the box. "No worries," I replied, trying not to seem too obvious as I moved the box away slightly. "That will be £500. "What?" she demanded. "Sorry, that's just the price these are going for at the moment." I shrugged. The woman laughed. "Ha, I'm not an idiot. I know exactly how much they're going for." "But why do you expect me to pay?" I was silent for a moment, glancing at my colleague again who had moved to the side. He had a similar look of confusion on his face. "Well, everything in the store costs money," I responded eventually. The woman was silent and her son behind her, who looked to be around 10, was facing the floor. His face was red from embarrassment and clearly he knew where this was going as he shook his head. "You need to give it to me for free, it's for my son," the woman stated, jutting her chin to the ceiling. "Sorry?" I asked with a laugh. "Don't laugh at me," she yelled, and within seconds her face was inches from mine. I saw my colleague slowly move around so he was not blocking any of the cameras, a clever move which later helped me. We cannot give away a PS5 for free. "Have you bought one in the past from us and had an issue or something?" I asked, wondering why she thought she was entitled to a free console. "No," she rolled her eyes. "Look, I'm just going to take this." She made a move to grab the console, and this time I fully yanked it out of her grasp. "I'm sorry, but why on earth do you have the right to a free PS5? I asked, but with a laugh. "Because it's for my son," she yelled. "I don't need to share my personal reasons with you." "I'm sure your son would love a PS5, so would thousands of others, but again, they are not something to be given away for free." "I don't believe this. How hard is this job and why would you not help a mother in need?" "You're wearing full designer clothes," my colleague chimed in, to which I had to stifle a laugh. "Look," I sighed, "we might have some open ones in the back secondhand that I could sell you for a discounted price." At this rate though, I just wanted the woman out of my store. "No," she yelled as I started walking off with the brand new PS5 in hand. "That will not do." I then spent the next half an hour going back and forth with this woman. She began raising her voice and getting obscener with her insults. She scared off any customers who walked in the door, and her poor son was getting redder by the second. All the while, my colleague stood nearby, which I was glad for in case I needed a witness if she did anything crazy, which, spoiler alert, she did. After she scared off the fifth customer, calling them some horrible names, I decided enough was enough. "You need to leave, you've gone too far now," I stated. "No, I'm not leaving until I get this PS5 for my son." "What? The one who is shaking his head and nearly is in tears?" "Yes, he's crying because you won't give him a PS5. "Mom, please stop, I don't want the PS5, what are you doing?" the boy yelled. "Don't interrupt me like that." She turned and slapped the young boy in the face, not insanely hard, but enough that it silenced him. Me and my colleague once again glanced at each other, realizing things were gonna escalate. He went to the door to say we are closed to stop anyone else from coming in. The woman stormed back over to the desk and her child stepped back until he was standing beside my colleague. The poor kid looked terrified. "We are not leaving until we get that PS5, she yelled. "Ma'am, this is insane. You are scaring your child and you have no right to freebies. Just leave," I demanded, even though I knew fully well the moment she left I'd be calling the cops. Anyway, to see if that kid needed some help. She stared at me for a while, her eyes were bloodshot by this point, and honestly, she looked like she had taken something, but I also think this might just be her usual sober self. I would hate to see her drunk. She straightened up and took a few deep breaths before turning around and beginning to rock a display back and forth. "Stop that, you'll be paying for damages," I demanded. "You should have given me the PS5, she yelled and began pulling things off the display and smashing them to the floor. Some were her video games, others were controllers, and then she moved onto larger items, grabbing consoles and smashing them to the floor. She smashed the glass to get to the more expensive items, pulling them all to the floor. While she was busy destroying half my store, which pained me to see, I called the cops. They could hear all the commotion in the background and were around in minutes. "You called the cops?" she asked as she smashed yet another console on the floor. I did not answer and simply watched as the police handcuffed her and dragged her away. She was kicking and screaming and cussing them with all the words under the sun. Her son was brought into a different police car and taken away. The officer told us he'd be taken to the station to be watched and questioned about his home life after we explained the abuse we witnessed. The next day the police came by to take our statements and asked us to compile a detailed inventory of the damaged goods along with receipts and proof of purchase. They confirmed that they were pursuing charges for vandalism and child endangerment. My colleague and I spent the rest of the day cleaning up the mess, the smashed consoles and ripped game boxes, a stark reminder of this woman's outburst. A few weeks later, we received a call from a woman assigned to the case. She introduced herself and explained that they were preparing for Mrs. Jones' court appearance. Mrs. Jones being the Karen in question. Anyway, she asked if my colleague and I would be willing to testify about what we had witnessed, and we didn't hesitate to agree. The prosecutor seemed confident that we had a strong case, especially with the CCTV footage. The day in court was still nerve-wracking, even with the prosecutor's reassurance. Mrs. Jones was present with her own court-appointed lawyer. She was much more subdued than during the incident at the store, but her gaze still held a flicker of defiance. The prosecutor guided us through our testimonies, helping us recount the events as calmly and factually as possible. Mrs. Jones' lawyer tried to paint a picture of her client being a stressed single mom at her wit's end, but the video evidence of her violent outburst and the testimony from the police officer who interviewed her son undermined their argument. In the end, Miss Jones was found guilty of vandalism and fined £4,000 to cover the damages to the store. The judge also ordered her to attend anger management counseling and stay away from our store for a period of at least 3 years. The child endangerment charge did not lead to a conviction though, but it did trigger a separate investigation by social services. We were informed by someone that Mrs. Jones' son was placed with his aunt, who was committed to providing a stable and loving home for him. While the experience was stressful and costly, it ultimately brought our small team closer together. We upgraded our security system and implemented a zero-tolerance policy for abusive behavior towards our staff. And yeah, Ripe Stars, please also let me know in the comments, what game are you currently playing? I'm currently replaying actually God of War on the PS5, because I kind of finished the game or played it to like maybe 60–70% years ago, then I stopped and now I pretty much forgot everything, so I need to replay it and then play God of War Ragnarok. Also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because that would help me tremendously. The next one is from r/Ripe Stories and it is titled "A Jerk Substitute Teacher Refused to Let 6-year-old Me Go to the Bathroom." As a result, I peed in my seat and got her fired, posted by user SweetDick8511. So this event occurred several years ago. To provide context, I was a 6-year-old girl at the time and my teacher was on vacation. Now onto the story. I had this substitute teacher, let's call her Miss Jerk. Miss Jerk was never liked by anyone. She always had this snippy attitude and it was obvious she hated kids. Clearly the perfect person for this job. Cue Miss Jerk, we sit down and wait for her to enter the class. When she comes in, she introduces herself and goes straight to taking roll call. Now we all say here, and one of the girls, being the goofball first graders that we were, said, "Macaroni and cheese." and she didn't quite yell at her, but she scolded her sternly. For the rest of the day, I kid you not, she legitimately made us take tests the whole day. We only had breaks for recess, during which we could go to the bathroom, but it would eat into our 15-minute break time. So we, as 6-year-olds, would hold it so we could play more and just go on the way back. However, she said that we had the opportunity to go earlier, so we complied and went back to class. Now, I kind of had to use the bathroom, but not too urgently. I thought she would let me go later, but spoiler alert, she didn't. Now, it's been about 45 minutes and another kid, let's call her Lily, asked to go and was allowed. Now I have to go to the bathroom. Now, mind you, I'm not a rude kid, so I politely got up and asked her if I could go real quick, and she snapped back, "No." I don't know why, but she always didn't like me. I never did anything to her or was rude, she just hated me. So now I had to go even more, so I got up a second time and asked her. She said no even more sternly this time, and now I don't have any medical conditions that make me need to go to the bathroom frequently, just a 6-year-old's bladder. Now I go up for the third time and I tell her, I need to go bed and I will wet my pants if I wait any longer. She borderline yells at me to go back to my seat, so I comply, and I was not brave enough to just get up and go, so I simply did what I promised and wet my pants a little, not full on puddle, but damp pants. Now that the test was finally over, she dismissed our tables. I was doing the potty dance in my seat and she purposely dismissed my table last. After school, my dad came to pick me up and I told him everything. My dad is very protective of me and he immediately took me back to the school to speak with the principal. I explained everything to the principal and he promised to talk to her. The next morning we had a new substitute teacher and Miss Jerk was never seen again. For the rest of the year, I was a legend at the school for getting her fired. And yeah, ripe stars, that awful teacher definitely deserved to get fired. Let's hope she never comes back. That was absolutely inhumane treatment of a very young student. Not acceptable whatsoever. Anyway, the next one is titled, My husband is saying another woman's name in his sleep. By the way, ripe stars, unfortunately, I can kind of relate to that, because I also might be saying the name of another woman in my sleep. The name is Disney, aka my cat, the second big love of my life. Anyway, my husband and I are both in our 30s, married for about 10 years with kids. When my husband is very tired, he talks in his sleep, not a lot, but a few words. Usually it's about whatever is on his mind. When our boys were young, it was usually about feeding them or giving them a bath, but now it happens less than it did back then, but it still happens about once a week, and usually he says something about work or fishing or his car. Last night he said another woman's name in his sleep, actually a few times. First he just said her name and kind of laughed in his sleep, and then he said, her name, let's go to bed. And then a few minutes later something about a shower. This is a woman that lives near us, he knows her, but I don't. I work afternoons and my husband gets out of work around 4, and so does she, so they are both outside with the kids around the same time. I've never seen them be anything but friendly, I've never seen odd behavior from him, but this has made me very paranoid. I don't want to be one of those people who gets mad at their partner for something that happened in their sleep. Am I being ridiculous for bringing this up to him? Update to the story. Thank you everyone. I brought it up to my husband in a joking manner. He immediately got defensive and began saying he couldn't effing believe that I was making an issue out of this. I was pretty taken aback by his immediate defensive reaction. I assured him I was not accusing him of anything, I just wanted to bring it up since it happened and make a joke out of it so he knew I was not actually upset. He continued to call me ridiculous, dramatic, etc. and if he expected me to stop hanging out with her because of this, I was out of my damn mind. Then he left. And yeah, ripe stars, I'm curious, what do you think about this? Is OP being the a-hole in the story, or does she have legitimate reason for concern? Let me know what you think in the comments. A user in the comments said, put your mind at rest and talk to him. I say and do all sorts of crazy stuff in my sleep. I told my partner he was a danger to me and that I was calling the police once. He really is not a danger to me, by the way. OP responded, I'm just a little bit alarmed because he's never spoken about anyone else like this in this way. It's always very straightforward. Things that he's thinking about or are happening in real life. Another person said, honey, trust your gut. His reaction is everything you need to know. That anger he directed at you is masking guilt or shame. He's having inappropriate feelings for the neighbor, whether he's acted on them or not, who knows. Update, after my husband's very defensive response after I brought it up in a really lighthearted way, I began to get a little concerned, especially how he said, If you expect me to stop hanging out with her over this, you are out of your mind. Of course, I never would have asked him to stop talking to her over a dream, but his response really was over the top. So yesterday, I took a half day and got home from work at 4:15, the time they are usually hanging out. My kids and my husband were not at home, despite my husband telling me he had gotten them off the bus and his live 360 saying he was home, plus his car being in the garage. I called his phone and it went off in the bedroom, but no him. So I walked by the woman's house. She has a pool in her backyard, and from the street I could hear the two of them clearly in the backyard in the pool, talking and laughing. I literally did not even go into her yard, I just yelled out my husband's name and said, "Where are the kids?" He was silent for so long, he started to say something, but I cut him off. I think I just told him to shut the F up and told him, just tell me where my kids were. He said they were over his mother's. I told him he had until I went to get them and get back to get his stuff out of the house. He tried to keep talking. At this point he had come to the street, but I honestly didn't want to hear anything he had to say. I told him I wasn't messing around. If he was still there when I came home, I was gonna lose it. He got to the point, he was gone, but I did let him tell me his side of the story on the phone later that night. He said they were just friends and that he didn't tell me how close they were because he thought I would get upset. A lie. I don't care if he has female friends or not, as long as he's respectful of boundaries, which he wasn't. I don't believe anything he said. He lied about where our kids were to innocently hang out with a friend? Obviously, this is all new, but I have no intentions of reconciling with him. I'll be a co-parent and nothing else. It feels surreal to me how all of this started. I still cannot really believe it's happening. Relevant comments, OP responding to a downvoted commenter. I don't understand what you're confused about. He lied about where my children were. He lied about where he was to hang out with her. You gotta be a moron to not see he's cheating. Then a commenter said, I absolutely knew something was up from your first post. I'm so sorry. Do you think they've been having intercourse? Is he trying to save your marriage or no? Is she married? What scum? OP answered, yes he is. Another commenter, what exactly is his excuse for sending your kids to his mom's so they could have a date? I cannot imagine. OP answered, one of our sons had just been sick 2 days before, so he said he didn't think he would be up for swimming. Then another commenter said, did you ask his mom for what she was told? Why she was asked to watch the kids? Does she know what her son has been doing? I'm so happy you are taking care of this now. OP answered, she told him he had to work on the house and didn't want them around while he did it. And here ripe stars, unfortunately that is how the story concluded, but I do wish the best for OP. What a horrible situation, and I hope she comes out ahead. I'm guessing they're gonna divorce, and I very much hope that she gets custody for the kids. The next one is titled, Guess You Lost the Job. An interesting coincidence happened today when I was stocking shelves at my side job and two girls decided to shoplift a few items, and my supervisor asked them at the door if they were going to pay for those items. They were petty items, as this was at a Dollar Tree where everything is $1.25. They proceeded to call my manager a racist a-hole and a bitch. All three of them, the two girls and my soft-voiced manager, were black. They walked out with the items because, as many people know, retail employees can be sued for physically stopping you for petty theft unless you are a properly designated security guard. We have been getting ravaged lately by theft, and our location is getting flack from regional for low margins as our hands are tied. The coincidence came when me and a coworker who managed it decided to grab a bite together at my other job where I could get us the employee discount. My coworker noticed after we walked in that the same two girls were sitting across the lobby. I chuckled and we started eating when one of them was called over by my manager there for an interview to begin. Then the other one interviewed. After they were done and walked out, I motioned my manager over and explained the incident that happened less than 2 hours prior. My coworker backed me up and she was very happy to dodge those 2 bullets. They are no longer under consideration for a position. And the next one is titled, I quit my job with a bang. Long story short, I've been transferred to a team with bad statistics, bad workflow, attitude, bad everything. It came to the point that when I said to a colleague, please get back to work, there is a backlog, it blew into a fight how I'm a princess who thinks she's better than the rest. I had troubles blending in with this team. I work and I don't mind it. I hate nagging and complaining. Don't like your job? Okay, cool that you let me know, but you are in here at your own wish. Besides, one time is enough. After a year and a half of arguments, attempts to tell HR how I ruined the team for making them work, I left my notice at my manager's desk. For the last 3 months of my notice, I've been working extremely hard, giving my 150%. Our higher-ups raised monthly targets 3 times already and will do it once again, but this time they will not achieve it then. They have never achieved them before I came. Petty, very much. Do I care? No. For everything they have done to me, they deserve it. People aged 25 to 40 acting like a bunch of lazy high school bullies. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.